Morning, everyone. We are ready to get started. With us today is Ed Zarecor, an engineering director at edX. He's been leading our Open edX mission at edX for the past 18 months or so, doing an outstanding job, I must say. He's also my boss, so I kind of have to say that. But he is here to talk to us about the current state of the Open edX world. We'll be taking questions afterwards in the chat window to the left of your gather screen. I'll be helping to moderate the question and answer session, and Ed will be around the rest of the morning, I think, to have more discussions if you'd like. Ed, take it away.
Thanks, Ned. Thanks for that wonderful introduction. Welcome, everyone. I'm so glad to be with you this morning to talk about the state of Open edX. I want to assure you that my Open edX t-shirt is not as orange as it appears on your screens. There's something going on with my camera, but it is we're not rebranding. It's Open edX red. Okay. I have a lot of things I want to discuss with you this morning in this 15-minute block, so I'm going to get right to it. I want to talk about kind of two main topics. One is the investments that we've made in the Open edX project and community over the course of the last 18 months, focusing on more recently, and also the future opportunities and the future of the Open edX project. Talk a little bit about that near the end, but just wanted to jump right in. As many of you already know, but I'm going to highlight a little bit of the investments that we've made over the last 18 months. edX had in early 2020 thought that there were a lot of opportunities to reinvigorate the community, and went about putting together a team to work on a couple different programs to help drive contribution back to the open source project. This timeline, and these slides will be available for download later, shows some of the programs that we launched and the approximate timing of when we launched them, starting in February of 2020. But among those programs were a blended development program, which is a program where edX funds advancements of the Open edX platform and works with providers from the ecosystem to build those key capabilities and features into the platform. We also launched a core contributor program to give members of the community more expansive rights in terms of committing code directly to source code repositories. We launched a preferred provider program. We also reinvested in our referral business to match supply of customization and hosting resources in the ecosystem with demand in the market for people that wanted to launch Open edX instances and customize them to meet their specific use cases. With that sort of high-level survey of some of the places we've invested, I wanted to talk a little bit about what results we've seen over the last 18 months. Starting with core contributors, and I wanted to mention here briefly that initially this program was called the Core Committers Program. It was focused on people that were contributing source code back to the project. We've recently rebranded it to be Core Contributors. We are embracing a more inclusive contribution model and recognizing the value of all sorts of contributions beyond code, whether those contributions be translations of strings, project management, product management, marketing, all different sorts of valuable contribution to the project. So just so you'll know, right now we've been focused on scaling that program, and we're at 20 core contributors as of September, and we anticipate scaling it even more dramatically over the course of the next months. We are an organization that really believes that feedback is a gift, and I'll say that here, and I really do mean it. So find me in the hall later if you have feedback. We want all of it. But Serena Canelake, who has been leading the core contributor scaling effort, recently completed a survey of the current core contributors, and the results came back quite strong. We were very proud of that. We had a net promoter score for the program of 72, which is in the excellent range. So we're excited both to get the feedback and to hear that the program is working well for participants. A little bit of an update on blended development progress. Since its inception, we have completed 16 separate blended development projects to date. We have 5 in active development now, and we have another 5 which are on the cusp of being launched. Some highlights of the capabilities and features we've added to the platform as a result of blended development work include LTI Advantage certified support for the platform, some key advancements to our architecture, like the Django hooks work that is in progress now, which hasn't completed yet. And we've also completed some key upgrades to things like Elasticsearch in prior versions of Django, and some key upgrades to our discussions capabilities on the platform. So some really exciting work coming out of blended development. And finally, the reinvestment in our referral business has been very successful. Over the last quarter alone, we've connected 500 people looking for help with Open edX with providers in the Open edX ecosystem. This is a key critical program for creating the network effects in the Open edX ecosystem that we believe are fundamental to growing the overall project and the ecosystem. I wanted to highlight a couple other areas where we have invested, and one of my favorites is working groups, which focus effort across the community, but also give community members an authentic and important role in leading efforts in the project. And 2 very, very successful instances of working groups over the last year have been Build, Test, Release, BTR, and the Open edX marketing group, which is focused on marketing the platform. That may be obvious. I also wanted to mention that we have, on the back of the success of those working groups, we have a few that are forming now. So if you're interested in any of these, or either BTR or Open edX marketing group, please reach out in Slack, and we'll connect you to the right people to talk about joining. But the new areas of investment are the Transifex working group, which is focused on translating strings so that we can have a better internationalization story for the platform. The front-end working group, which was announced, I believe, yesterday or the day before, which will be focused on the future of front-end development in the Open edX platform. And finally, the data working group, which will be focused on data and analytics on Open edX. As I said, we've been moving toward a more inclusive view of what contribution means in Open edX. And historically, the contributions of working group members have not really been effectively counted. Over the course of the last couple of quarters, we asked some of the working groups to tell us how many hours they were spending working on activities for their groups. This gives you a sense of the magnitude of the effort that's involved here. But the marketing working group alone has contributed 600 hours of their time to the open source project. So big thanks to all the members of that group, many of them who are here today. Your work has been, your commitment and your work has been outstanding. Thank you. And to get a sense of like what things actually materialize as a result of this effort, I've linked here to the extensions matrix that the group compiled and built. It's available on the Open edX website, and it lets folks who are exploring whether Open edX is the right solution for them understand what extensions are available, like what other pieces of software that they may already use, like Zoom or Big Blue Button might be available to connect to Open edX. If you have additional extensions that you know about, please also reach out about that. And finally, big kudos to BTR for all of their hard work. I think it's fair to say that the kind of reinvigoration of that group has been primarily responsible for getting us back on the twice yearly cadence of Open edX releases. That group has had a number of different leaders over the course of the last 18 months and orderly transitions of leadership, and succession planning, which has been really, really great to see. We've seen the release of Koa and Lilac, and they are currently working on the Maple release, which is scheduled to come out in December. I also wanted to highlight a couple really impactful community contributions that are in active development right now. The first one is that a team at Edley is working on XAPI and Caliper support for the platform. I'm following that project very closely. The link here is to the GitHub repo where you can follow it as well. But there were pull requests this morning to fix quality issues and some final issues with tests. So I know that that's getting very close to being feature complete. And that team will look to get IMS global certification for that capability as well. Very exciting advancement for the platform. So thank you to the team at Edley. And a more cross-cutting effort I wanted to highlight, which is being led by Jeremy Bowman of the edX team, is a GitHub project here that's linked where a group of community members has been working to upgrade the upstream dependencies that we need to have upgraded in order to move to Django 3.2. And there were, I think, something like 80 issues that needed to be resolved when this started. I think there are around, I don't know, I think 25 done, another 35 in progress, more or less, and just a few remaining to be started. So the progress on that work and the community engagement and involvement has been really, really exciting to see. So thank you to everyone who has contributed to the Django 3.2 upgrade effort. There will certainly be additional opportunities like this in the future. So if you're interested in how you might contribute, again, reach out. Jeremy Bowman is the contact for this work. Okay. And then, we've talked a lot about some activities that we've done and some investments that we've made and some successes and proof points. But if you go up to the 50,000-foot view, like, what does this really mean for our project and our community? Are we seeing visible impact? Have we really reached the contribution? The goal was originally to improve the rate of contribution and the quality of contribution and the number of participants. And are we actually making progress there? And I wanted to share this graph with you, and I'll quickly talk through it. The dotted line, the vertical dotted line, represents about February 2020, when we started this really intentional series of investments. The red horizontal line represents the average participation, number of active participants in the project over the last 5 years. And the blue line represents the kind of absolute number of participants above the average. You can see typically since the investment started. The lower graph is more or less the same thing, but it is sort of the curves follow the exact same shape, so it represents the same data. But for me, this is like very clear evidence that investing in the right interventions in the project can achieve the results that we're looking for. And it gives me the inspiration to continue our investments and think about what are the next things that can achieve a step function growth in contribution and activity and involvement from the community. So I hope that this is as exciting to you to see as it is for me. If you're wondering what that dip is, that's basically December and January. So I think everybody in the midst of the COVID pandemic took a well-deserved break around the holiday season. So that's what that is. Okay. And with that whirlwind survey of the state of Open edX today and all of the great results that we've seen, I wanted to spend some time talking about what I'll acknowledge is probably on most people's minds, at least somewhere, which is the future of the Open edX project and the Open edX platform. So why don't we just dive right into that? As I think everyone knows, edX is being acquired by 2U, and it was announced in late June that that 2U will acquire substantially all of edX's assets for $800 million in cash. So that was a big deal for EdTech and for edX. And it begged the question, what does this mean for the future of the open source project? It's notable, if you've been following this in the press, that the Open edX platform, as it has been, will remain owned by a nonprofit, and a nonprofit that will be led by Harvard and MIT, just as edX was. The proceeds from the sale of edX are going to flow into that nonprofit and support its activities. And there are still quite a lot of details that we want to share, and I'm sure questions that you will want to have that we won't be able to share today, but we will the moment the deal has closed. And if you've been following this, it was announced that we expected the deal to close, in around 120 days. So we're still within that period of 120 days since the deal was first announced and signed. So what do we know about the nonprofit? What are the public details that we can speak about? First of all, that it will have a broad mission related to improving educational outcomes and reducing inequities in education. So very similar to the areas of focus that edX had previously, but also with a focus on expanding reach to underserved communities and reaching all learners and preparing them for success. Critically to our community, the nonprofit will, and I'm just going to read this because it's so important. I want to make sure everybody hears it. Will ensure that the Open edX platform is continually improved, remains open source, and powers a vibrant open source community. I think we've been investing in improving the vibrancy of this community over the last few years. That is going to continue, and the nonprofit will ensure that Open edX remains open source. That is a critical thing. I want you to understand that is not going to change. It's also true that the nonprofit will retain certain edX employees. Again, these conversations are ongoing, and we're not going to be able to announce any of those details until Harvard and MIT finalize their plans, and that won't be until after the deal has closed. So some of these things I've already highlighted, but I just wanted to kind of reiterate them because they're, I'm sure these questions are top of mind for you, but they're things that we cannot yet answer today. We don't have the exact date that the deal will close. Things are within the expected timeframe and subject to regulatory approval, but we can't give you a date when everything will be final. And finally, just to reiterate it, Harvard and MIT are actively working on staffing the nonprofit, but we will not be able to tell you who will remain with the nonprofit until those plans have been finalized. And with that caveat, I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about the future and how we, as the Open edX community, should be thinking about this change. For me, it is really an extension of the strategy that we've been pursuing for the last 18 months. And I think a lot of the key programs that we've been investing in will still be the levers that we're pulling to grow and to continue to drive the platform forward. So core contributors and preferred providers and blended development, all the programs that we've been investing in. Critically, the expectation on 2U's side is that they will be a significant contributor of code to the Open edX project. And it's also the case that they will continue to run edX.org on the Open edX platform. I think that the community has gotten a lot of value out of edX.org, running the tip of master of Open edX in production for millions of learners. That will remain the case after the deal closes. And 2U, as they have been as edX, will continue to be significant contributors. And my sincere hope is that there will be opportunities to grow the contribution over time rather than just keep it the same. And this is, I should have caveated this point as this is my strong opinion. This is not something that I can verify factually, but I really think that this change is the biggest news for our community since the project was open sourced. I think as the deal finalizes and some of the details emerge, that we as a community will see opportunities to continue and accelerate down the path that we've been on, and that we can really, really advance this project and this community in kind of world-changing ways. So I just wanted to wrap up by saying, the call to action that I'll leave you with today is this: let's together make Open edX the leading platform for online learning. We've already, when we look at all the sites that are using Open edX today and all the learners we've touched, the impact that we've made has already been massive. But I feel like we've, in some ways, only scratched the surface, and that the signs of new vigor in the community are exciting. The first screen shoots. Let's continue what we've been doing, continue our investment. Let's make Open edX the default choice for learning online. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ed. It's great to see the contributions from the community and the investments from edX in reaching out to the community. The way I've explained the edX strategy towards Open edX these days is to figure out where our interests align and work together on things, and where edX and the community's interests might differ, to empower the community to work on those things. And I think the working groups have been a great example of that. For people who aren't familiar with blended development, can you define that term? You told us a bunch about how it's going. What is it?
Yeah, so blended development is a program where we have been, edX has been funding the advancement of the roadmap and partnering with providers in the ecosystem to build out certain features that we are at a pretty high level of definition. So some examples of ongoing work are we're investing in improving our forums capabilities and providing mechanisms for plugging in additional forums tools beyond the default Open edX experience. But it's an opportunity where we may not have available capacity at edX to work on that work today, but we can expand into the community and fund community members to build those features.
If people have other questions for Ed, there's a chat window on the left-hand toolbar in Gather. It's the double speech bubble icon. And you can just type questions there. We can take questions for a few more minutes here, or Ed will be around later. Maybe Ed nailed it all and no one's got any questions. I'm not sure.
That seems unlikely.
This is an interesting moment in the Open edX trajectory. So one question asks if 2U will use Open edX as well, I guess meaning beyond edX.org. Do we know anything about that?
We don't have any kind of, so just so you know, that has definitely been a conversation that's been had at a very high level. It is a goal, I would say it's a goal of mine. But again, part of the constraints around the state of the deal is that, planning for the future between edX and 2U is restricted for now. So specifics about will a specific area of 2U change to using Open edX, that hasn't been decided yet, but it is an area where I would like to be influential. I think any place where we can grow the deployment and the size of the ecosystem is something that I'm interested in pursuing.
Mm-hmm. We have a question about advances in gamification functionalities. Is this on the roadmap for Open edX?
Let's see. We've explored gamification in a couple different pockets, but but to say it's on the roadmap, I don't think that we have a specific design that we're pursuing now. I think that would be an area where I would be, and I think, like Marco and everyone who's involved in kind of product for the Open edX platform would be interested to know what use cases you're trying to solve for, what exemplars you've seen that are compelling to you, how you think it would best integrate with the existing platform, but not an area of active investigation now, I would say.
Definitely, it's something that we'd like to, if there's interest in the community, you can always band together and push something forward like that. We'd like to see advancements in the platform, and we certainly don't need everything to come from edX or any one place. We have a question about the data working group. Is that the same? Would you describe that as a league of data czars? I'm not even quite sure what that would mean.
So let's see. Data czar in certain like edX, Open edX partners, pockets has a very specific meaning, which it's the folks who are responsible for analyzing the institutional data about courses on edX. So I'm not sure if that's the context here or not. But I think it's a little bit TBD what that group will be. I mean, I think we're looking for people who have opinions about, let's say, standards, analytics platforms, data visualization, instructor analytics, feedback loops to use analytics in, potentially adaptivity, lots of different subjects. We've had some initial conversations already, but I think that group, like what that group will be focused on, is still evolving.
We're getting more questions now, and I'm not going to take them necessarily in strict linear order. Are there any plans to help developers who are new to the platform, to the Open edX platform, maybe improving or expanding on the developer docs?
It's funny that you should ask. We have another community-led effort that I'll mention. Omar from AppSembler has been kind of leading an effort to build a developer onboarding course. Ned has recently volunteered to review the content that Omar submitted some time back. So we're trying to unblock that work. We realize that one of the keys to scaling the community is getting developers onto the platform faster and making them productive more quickly. So hopefully we'll have an update on the state of the onboarding course soon. In terms of general documentation, I think that's an area where we're always looking to invest more. So if you have specific places where you think there are gaps or specific places you'd like to contribute, we'd love to have your involvement. And I just like to mention one other thing. Also, Ned has been leading an effort to transition everyone to using conventional commits, which is, it's not an onboarding document, but it's a way for developers on the platform to quickly kind of grok changes, why they matter, what their nature is. So a way of having self-documented changes so that people can approach the platform more quickly and understand it.
I think we have time for just one more question here. Remember, at 20 of, as we're almost there, the topic areas down below are available for discussion, and I've signed Ed up to go to topic area E for Ed, if you want to continue the discussion with him. But we'll close with sort of a wide-reaching question, which is, how would you define winning in the ed tech sector? And what would be Open edX's strategy to get there?
Yeah, that's a really, really big question. I would say, I don't think that winning means that there's only one platform in ed tech. So it's not world domination or anything like that. I think that, competition is good. I think the fact that, that there are options like Open edX and Moodle, they're complementary. They're not simply competing against each other. So I think winning I have in mind a couple kind of big architectural gestures that I think will allow us to propel the project forward. And these are things that, largely have been led by Namisha, but exciting work around, sort of better extension points, event orientation, standards adoption, and things like that. At a very, very high level, I think Rajesh has this question. I would say, focusing on making the Open edX platform more of a platform, more easily adoptable, more easily extendable. I think those are the near-term properties of what we need to accomplish to get toward winning.
All right. Thank you, Ed. Everyone, remember, we're going to be here for a few more hours. Even beyond this event, discuss.openedx.org is a discussion forum where we can also start threads on these questions, which will give us a chance to have longer, maybe more thought out discussion back and forth. Again, that's discuss.openedx.org. I encourage you to join us there. We want to continue the community discussions and interactions even beyond this event. So thanks for coming. Thank you, Ed. The next talk will start at the top of the hour, but until then, we can be down below in the unstructured area. Thank you.